The second speaker of the session is Xinjie Yuan from Tsinghua University. Xinjie got his bachelor degrees from Xi'an Jiaotong University and is now currently a third-year master student in Tsinghua Berkeley Shenzhen Institute. His interest in cellular network is now under the supervision of Professor Zhi Wang and Professor Wen Wuzhu. Today, he is going to talk about their work of understanding the 5G performance in real-world service from a content provider perspective. Similar to the first presentation, Xinjie is not able to come here to do the presentation in person. Let's watch the video first.
Hello everyone, I'm Yuan Xinjie from Tsinghua University. I will present our paper collaborated with Kuaishou Corporation, Understanding 5G Performance for Real-World Services from a Content Provider's Perspective. Let's start from the background and the challenges. Today, we are entering the 5G era. In China, by 2021, the number of 5G users has reached over 350 million, and there has been over 1.4 million 5G base stations. 5G is expected to enable or boost many applications, such as VR, AR, V2X, smart manufacturing, and so on. As one of the killer applications in cellular network, crowdsourced live streaming is also expected to benefit from 5G. In fact, our partner Kuaishou, providing both video on demand and crowdsourced live streaming services, has over 300 million daily active users. Crowdsourced live streaming has contributed over half of the revenues in Kuaishou in 2020. In crowdsourced live streaming, 5G usage ratio has reached 10% by 2021 and is still increasing. With such trend, two questions are raised by a content provider. What QoS/QoE benefits can be gained by a content provider from 5G networks? And what practical strategies can be taken to fully utilize 5G's new features? Several measurement studies have investigated the coverage, the radio access characteristics, the reliability, and so on. However, they are from the perspectives of ISPs, general application providers, or phone vendors, leaving the above questions for content providers unanswered. Moreover, there are two architectures, non-standalone NIC 5G and standalone SA 5G. In NIC 5G, ISPs only deploy 5G base stations, while still utilize legacy 4G's infrastructure for the control plan. In SA 5G, ISPs deploy both 5G base stations and 5G core network. After about 3 years of 5G deployment, SA 5G with sub-6 GHz radio bands had been the dominant in China. Unfortunately, existing measurements are conducted in the earlier stage of 5G deployment and mainly focus on NIC 5G, and the commercial SA 5G remains to be fully examined. Therefore, our work distinguishes itself by the content provider's perspective and by involving both NIC and SA 5G. We measured 5G networks with Kuaishou's crowdsourced live streaming service. Here, anyone could upload the live streaming and become broadcasters. In cellular networks, the streams will be uploaded to the source servers via radio access network and core network. Then they will be transcoded and sent to CDN servers to be delivered to the viewers. Viewers will watch the streams and can also interact with broadcasters with real-time comments. Such measurement raises many challenges. The first challenge comes from the large and complex online system itself. It introduces so many performance indicators and conditional factors, which should be carefully considered to make the comparisons fair and the results convincing. Besides, any little negative impact on QoE, which may result from data collection, can impact lots of users and thus should be avoided. The second challenge comes from the black boxes in the system. Not only the CDNs from multiple providers usually work as black boxes, but the core network's configuration are also seldom open to the public. Next, let me illustrate the methodology. The measurement contains two parts, passive part and active part. In the passive part, we let the users record 4 types of information in every 10 seconds into logs and upload the logs periodically. In total, we have collected over 100 terabytes raw logs in a year, and a great proportion of users have reported logs in SA5G. We have over 1.7 trillion logs, and over 13 billion of them are from SA5G. During the collection from December 2020 to the November 2021, for users with 5G devices, the fraction of SA5G logs has increased from 0.4 to over 25%. That is an over 60 times increase. In the active part, we utilize the traceroute command. We first select about 5 million most active 5G users, and then assign the traceroute tasks. Those who are online at that time will execute the traceroute to 4 selected domain names and report the results. Notice that in China, the core network seldom responds to the traceroute request. Therefore, we ignore the internal components and only estimate the gateway in the core network by the first internet hop. Now, let's show some results. One key promise of 5G is the reduced delay. So we check the connection establishment delay, which is a significant component of the startup delay. We find that both NSA and SA5G reduce the delay compared with 4G. SA5G is even comparable with Wi-Fi, which is much better than NSA and 4G. Further, we track the whole transmission process from the broadcasters to the viewers, which is also critical for the interaction experience. We find that, compared with both broadcasters and viewers using 4G, either side using SA5G leads to a lower delay. Moreover, making a comparison between both using 4G and both using SA5G, we find that streams without transcoding would benefit much more from SA5G. The reason, in short, is that streams with transcoding have longer traveling distance in the internet than streams without transcoding. So the conclusion can be drawn that SA5G benefits more from distributed systems. This is consistent with our expectation. Longer internet traveling distance will weaken SA5G's superiority over 4G. We didn't stop here. We are further curious about how 5G's new structure contributes to its lower delay. So we use the traceroute results to answer the 2 questions. Are users in SA5G closer to the internet? And does being closer to the internet help reduce RTT? For the first question, we find a positive answer. For the second question, we find that it depends on the routing policy as a gateway. So to answer the second question, we define 2 city level distances, the user gateway distance and the gateway server distance. Then we look at the relationship between RTT and the 2 distances. For a given total distance interval, we use the linear regression to get the slopes between RTT and the user gateway distance and gateway server distance. Similarly, the results of different total distance interval and ISPs are calculated. We find that for SA5G, when the total distance is about 300 kilometers, the RTTs are all negatively related to the user gateway distance, while positively related to the gateway server distance. However, 4G nearly shows the exact opposite relationship. This indicates that, in SA5G, routing the traffic with a remote destination to the internet locally may be not a good idea. Instead, a good choice might be to route the traffic with a local destination to the internet locally, while route the traffic with a remote destination to upper-level UPI so as to decrease the gateway server distance. Enhanced reliability is another key promise of 5G, and is also highly related to the rebuffer proportion that users perceive. We find that NSA 5G and 4G have similar performance, while SA5G is much better than them. This is because that the reliability is more related to the control plan. So NSA 5G and 4G have similar performance as they use the same 4G control plan, while SA5G uses the 5G control plan. We know that handover, which means the change of serving base stations caused by users' mobility, is a challenge to the reliability. So we check the rebuffer frequency before and after handovers. We first find that right before handovers, the rebuffer frequencies are already higher than the global average. That's because users generally get worse serving quality at the edge of the cells. Further, we find that most handovers will increase the rebuffer frequency immediately. So we calculate the frequency increase after handovers by percentage for vertical handovers, which indicate a change of network types. Those between NIC 5G and 4G increase the rebuffer the most mildly, while those involved with IC 5G the most severely, as they have to overcome the generation gap. For horizontal handovers, which indicate no change of network types, IC 5G increase the rebuffer the most mildly, while those NIC 5G the most severely. So we say IC 5G is more tolerant to horizontal handovers. We also measure the download speed of 5G. We find that although IC 5G has much higher download speed than 4G, its download speed decreased in the past year. A possible cause is the increasing number of users. We verify this from the radio access network perspective. We find that IC 5G's download speed drops more rapidly than 4G when the access density grows. Energy consumption is another critical QoE concern of 5G. We use the battery level decrease rate, which is directly perceivable by users, to compare the performance among different network types, ISPs, and bit rates. One observation is that the performance is highly related to 5G SoC, and IC 5G is not necessarily more power consuming than 4G. For more details, please refer to our paper. Finally, we discuss about the results and give a trial experiment. Firstly, we give guidelines to the key players in 5G era. For example, we encourage the content providers to place servers closer to the users, as we observed that IC 5G benefits more from distributed systems. We also encourage the ISPs to carefully design the routing policy at UPX, where the traffic with remote destination and local destination should be treated differently. We didn't stop at the guidelines, but also conducted a trial experiment in IC 5G. We observed that the average lasting durations for a single rebuffer are similar in all networks. We deem that this is because the underutilization of higher bandwidth and better reliability. So we modified the rebuffer recovery strategy in IC 5G to alleviate the underutilization. The original strategy has the fixed watermark. When the network condition is bad, the buffer length decreases. When it is shorter than 1 frame, the player rebuffers. After the network recovers, the buffer is refilled. When it reaches the fixed watermark, the player continues to play. We deem that in IC 5G, the higher bandwidth and better reliability means that once the rebuffer starts recovering, it is less likely to encounter another rebuffer. Thus, a shorter watermark would just work well and save users waiting time. We propose to decrease the watermark properly by applying the additive increase and multiplicative decrease to the strategy. So after the buffer length decreases to shorter than 1 frame, the watermark is discounted right before rebuffering. And after the network recovers, the watermark will increase right before continuing to play. After implementing such strategy for 18 days, with 3 groups and about 3 million users in each group, we found that our adaptive strategy could reduce the rebuffer proportion by up to 7% in IC 5G. Finally, we summarize by giving some takeaways. For the delay, we find that both NIC and IC 5G reduce the delay compared with 4G, while IC 5G benefits more from distributed systems. For the reliability, IC 5G improved the reliability, but NIC 5G performs similar to 4G. And although IC 5G has more frequent handovers, it is more tolerant to horizontal handovers. For the bandwidth, IC 5G shows the higher download speeds than 4G, but IC 5Gs are more sensitive to the density of cellular users. For the energy consumption, we find that IC 5G is not necessarily more power consuming than 4G. Actually, it is highly related to 5G SoC. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jinjie. Now we can take a couple of questions from the audience. Okay.
Hello, I'm Yan Weixu from Huawei. Thank you for the talk. And I have a question. When you're talking about the delay, so are you talking about the one-way delay or the round-robin time?
Actually, it's the connection establishment delay. At the start of a session, the broadcasters establish the an RTMP connection with the server. So the delay actually is the RTMP connection which should first connect a TCP connection, and afterwards follows many negotiation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. But in your paper, I think there is a picture showing the delay from the broadcaster to the consumer. So
Yeah.
So it is also the connection time.
No, sorry. I'm sorry. Actually, in the paper there are several delays, and the connection establishment delay is what I first present, and in the broadcaster to the viewer delay, actually it's the delay for a frame to be generated from the broadcaster and to be played at the viewers.
Okay, so my question is, how do you do the clock synchronization between the consumer and the servers?
You mean the synchronization?
Yeah, clock synchronization. Yeah, because if you measure the delay, you have to synchronize the clocks.
Yeah. Actually, we face with the problem. As the CDN usually will change our file in the streaming. So of course that's implemented by Kuaishou Corporation, and the core is to add a file at the broadcaster, a private file at the broadcaster, and once the frame is generated, the file will count the time until it reaches the viewer and decoded playback. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions from the audience? I couldn't see.
Hello. Hi, I have a question. So if I understood it correctly, you said that when we have edge CDN server located far away from your anchor gateway, which is UPF, then in case of SA5G, it is better to route from anchor UPF to the next UPF and finally to the edge server. So extending the previous question, this may include the connection time between one UPF to another UPF over N9 interface, and then UPF needs to decide whether to directly send to the edge server or whether to just send it to the next UPF. So have you considered any algorithm to address this issue for the UPF?
Yeah, sorry, we do not propose any specific algorithm, but we think we just provide ideas to the ISPs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for the speaker.
Thank you all.